Hello YouTube, welcome to part 3 of my critique of this absurd misogynist's YouTube video. This may go into 4 parts. I'm going to try to keep this concise, but without further ado.
Stability or fairness. Why go back and forth with a group of people who believe that they are utterly and completely above having to triumph over a hardship?
I don't see the substantiation for your claim that women as a group all believe that they are utterly above having to triumph over hardship. Certainly numerous women do triumph over hardship. Certainly numerous women experience hardship, whether it be poverty or rape or assault, etc., just as men do. So certainly women have to triumph over hardships. I don't know that how an individual would endure hardship or triumph over it while simultaneously believing that they are above it. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not sure entirely what you mean. Maybe you think that women believe that they are entitled, in which case I would contend that men are far more inclined to believe they're entitled, given the ubiquity of rape, which is a violent violation of a woman's ability to feel safe in her own body. It is a objectification of a woman as merely something to be used to exert one's power on violently, to dominate, to control, to abuse, as opposed to a complex being with unique desires and fears and aspirations and etc. So certain men and certain women certainly believe that they're entitled to, have the world without having to work for it, but you fail to demonstrate how this is unique in any fashion to women, and I would contend that it's far more common to men, given the ubiquity, again, of rape and assault, etc. Again, provide specific examples of individual women that you know, but don't paint women as a whole as an entitled group of people. Women are just as diverse as men are.
In their reality, such things are reserved for the subhuman workhorses they call men. What I mean by women...
So you're going to allege that women as a group objectify men. That is, they view them as subhuman workhorses. They view them as their only... they think that their only value is utilitarian and instrumentalist in nature, that their only value is to work, and that they are subhuman. Well, I don't know about you, but my definition of a human is someone who, with a variety of unique desires and aspirations, etc. Someone, who may be intelligent, may be unintelligent, may be compassionate, may be cruel. Certainly not, a human is someone that doesn't fit a cliche set of categories that you've assigned to an entire group. A human is someone that doesn't conform to a monolithic, pre-prescribed set of judgments that you place upon them. So this notion just illustrates your sheer misogyny, but also your hypocrisy, because you're criticizing women as a group who allegedly objectify men and view them as subhuman workhorses, yet you clearly view women as subhuman. You view them as individuals. You don't even view them as individuals, but you view them as a group whose members' sole value is to dispense sex. Never mind the variety of other unique traits that women have, you view them as exclusively for giving pleasure to men. You view them as slaves. You view them as less than human. You view them as subhuman sex machines. As opposed to women allegedly viewing men as subhuman workhorses, you view women as subhuman sex machines. Absurdly hypocritical, again with the generalizations, but this just illustrates the sheer insanity. You're criticizing men for objectifying women, yet you're spending this entire video unjustifiably, or you're criticizing women for objectifying men, but throughout this entire video, you've been unjustifiably objectifying women.
Being unable to understand what justice and fairness actually is, we can use the concept of abortion.
I'm going to skip this portion because it's just more absurd generalizations and because I'm conflicted with regard to abortion. But bottom line, he again paints certain women who selfishly engage in abortion, he alleges, as being indistinguishable indistinguishable from all the rest of women. So I'm just going to skip over this portion. Bear with me for a moment.
With people who wish to delude and deflect until we're talking about nothing but triviality and nonsense. Now, it should be taken into account that I'm simply blocking these people from my channel for lack of a desire to explain to them how hypocritical they are. While these same people are going out of their way to flag my videos and report them as hate speech to YouTube in order to get them banned.
As much as I hate to say it, I do agree with you there, despite the fact that I find your views highly objectionable and, quite frankly, repulsive. I do support your right to say them, and I don't believe that individuals should be attempting to get videos removed from YouTube. I believe fully in free speech, and I think that all views... you know, I do say that because I do value free speech, but now that I think about it, there actually is some validity to the claim that, well, these views are highly detrimental to society. I, as an individual, don't want others to hear them, therefore I'm going to flag his video in an attempt to get less individuals to fall victim to be influenced by this virulent misogynist. So now I oppose, obviously, YouTube censoring people's videos. I suppose these centralized institutions that determine what is moral and what is immoral and what should be heard and what shouldn't. But having said that, if I find this video objectionable and I want to flag it because it's virulently misogynist and I don't want other people being influenced by this hate speech and probably, you know, potentially increasing the rate of rape in our society as a result, because people who already hate women are given this extra justification with this pseudo-intellectual approach to engage in abuses against women, then I feel it's perfectly acceptable for individuals to flag it. So never mind. I mean, yes, this individual has a right to say what he says, but I think that other individuals on YouTube have a right to flag it to prevent other people from being influenced by this absolute bile that this individual is spewing.
And this once again illustrates my point that logic, fairness, or justice simply is not in the equation when dealing with feminists.
He's using the term, again, another generalization, unwarranted, don't need to elaborate on that, but he's using the word feminist and women interchangeably. Initially, he had this veneer of, oh, I'm a rational intellectual, I'm going to critique feminists, and it's a distorted ideology, and etc. But quickly, he started using the term women and the objectifying group generalization pronoun of they, to reveal his true colors as a misogynist, as a women hater, not a critiquer of a certain ideology in a rational sense, but just a hater of women as a collective.
So it's time that we move forward and understand that there is no reasoning with these people, and so now we have to turn our own attention to our own kind and what we men are doing to perpetuate the problem. So my videos from here on are going to address men for the most part and how we upkeep the system. Every man who has listened to our message and then has gone out and gotten married is an enemy of men's rights.
So the implication there is that marriage is an inherently imprisoning institution for men. That is, it inhibits the expression of men's rights. He does not go on to substantiate this claim at all, as if you could not have predicted that already at this point. But I would offer that marriage is more commonly an institution that subjugates women more so than men. I would argue that it subjugates both, actually, but I'll get into that in a minute. But, you know, just given the ubiquity of domestic abuse and rape in marriages typically perpetrated by men against women as opposed to the reverse. As an anarchist, I oppose the impose the institution of marriage. I mean, I understand why certain individuals get married. I understand that it unfortunately affords you certain benefits in the society that you can't get unless you're married, financial and otherwise. But, you know, I would contend that if you care about an individual and want to engage in a relationship with them, sexual or otherwise, you should just engage in it if it's mutually beneficial without having to get a certificate from the state that demonstrates your commitment. If you want to demonstrate your commitment by being a caring individual. Don't demonstrate it with a ceremony and a certificate from the state. But I'm digressing into my other views the bottom line here is that you failed to substantiate your claim that marriage is, even that it's generally worse for men than it is for women, and absurdly you imply that marriage is inherently restrictive to men more so than women, that it is any man that gets married is an enemy of man's rights. What if the relationship, what if the marriage operates in an entirely egalitarian fashion? What if, both men and women have common interests and they contribute equally to the maintenance of a successful, healthy relationship, and they don't demand things unfairly of the other, they don't coerce the other? I don't see how this is an enemy of man's rights. To me, that seems like a mutually beneficial relationship. Seems healthy, it seems positive, it seems like something we should promote in society, not necessarily this certificate from the state aspect, but I'm saying that there are marriages that can certainly be healthy and positive. You seem to ignore that entirely. Perhaps an egalitarian relationship would be viewed as an affront to man's rights for you, because you seem to view man's rights as men's right to coerce and intimidate and be above women. That is not something you obviously directly state, but I think it can be very reasonably extracted from your virulent objectification of women. As you state, you view them as having no valuable function in society. You view them as mere instruments for man's pleasure. You view their only value as dispensing sex. I mean, self-evidently, you don't want egalitarianism. You want oppression by men of women, even if you're too chicken shit to call it that.
Continue to fight in wars for countries that are deeply misandric.
What countries are deeply misandric? I'm just curious. I mean, there may be some, but the vast majority of both Western and both industrialized and less civilized countries are highly patriarchal. Now, I don't like to bring up the fact that women are not allowed to drive in Saudi Arabia. The more religious groups oftentimes or sometimes don't even let their women out in public. Commonly, they force them against their will to cover their entire bodies with veils and etc. I don't like to typically bring that up because to point out the human rights abuses against women in some Islamic countries feeds the neocon, the neoconservative agenda. It justifies the imperialist, illegal, criminal, sick wars that the United States government engages in. But I feel that it's relevant here just simply to say, Saudi Arabia is deeply patriarchal, much more so even than the U.S., which is also deeply patriarchal. Women don't have basic rights in certain countries, and so I'm not sure what countries you're referring to that are deeply misandric, but the vast majority are quite to the contrary.
Are going to be called out. Men who spend money on females and celebrate emasculation holidays like Valentine's Day will be called out. Idiot PUAs who think calling themselves alpha males while jumping through hoops for women will be thoroughly discredited, classified, and exposed. There was a particularly enlightening comment from a subscriber named Sigma K9 which read as follows, and I quote, "None of the players or alphas encourage the shaming of women for their deplorable behavior and hypocrisies. They only want to get their panties wet, so they reward women by giving them what they want and shaming any male who refuses to play along. In that sense, the players and the feminists are on the same side. They just have different methods of punishing the heretics." End quote. I love the fact that he uses the word heretics because it illustrates the damn near religious obsession that PUAs use to chase pussy, trying to chase pussy.
Please continue to part 4, which will likely be the final part of this video. I apologize for it being so long, but the time is almost out. So please watch part 4 of this video for my final critique of this absurd individual, completely irrational individual, completely hateful, patriarchal, cruel individual.